don't embarrass us tonight." My mother's words followed me all the way from the parking lot to the beautifully decorated engagement hall. She didn't smile when she said them. She didn't hug me either. She simply adjusted her expensive necklace, looked at my simple blue dress, and whispered those 6 words as if I were a stranger. I nodded without saying anything. After years of being treated like the invisible daughter, I had learned that silence hurt less than arguing. My younger brother, Daniel, was the family's golden child. Every achievement of his deserved applause. Every mistake of mine became a family discussion. Tonight was his engagement dinner, and everyone important was there. Business partners, relatives, friends, and one special guest everyone kept talking about. A retired Army colonel who had mentored Daniel during a charity program. People were excited to meet him. I wasn't. I quietly found a seat near the back and watched my mother greet every guest with the same proud smile she had never given me. "Look at our successful son," she kept saying. Not once did she introduce me as her daughter. It wasn't new. It was simply another reminder that I didn't belong. But what I didn't know that night was that someone across the room had already noticed everything. Someone whose calm eyes kept looking in my direction while everyone else pretended I didn't exist. The colonel never joined the conversations. He simply watched. And every second that passed made me feel like he was waiting for something. Dinner began with laughter and expensive speeches. My brother thanked our parents for always believing in him. Everyone clapped. I smiled politely even though memories of my own dreams being ignored flashed through my mind. When I wanted to study abroad, my parents said there wasn't enough money. Months later, they bought Daniel a luxury car. When I started my small business alone, nobody congratulated me. Tonight, my mother walked past me carrying champagne glasses without even asking if I needed anything. Then the host invited family members to say a few words. Before I could stand, my mother squeezed my arm. "Please, don't embarrass us." The room laughed at something else, but I felt every word like a stone on my chest. So I stayed seated. I decided I would leave quietly after dessert. That was my plan. Until the colonel slowly stood up. The music stopped. Every conversation faded. He picked up the microphone, looked directly at me, and smiled. "I would like to thank someone," he said. "But not the person everyone expects." The entire room turned toward me. And my mother's face instantly lost its color. Confused whispers filled the hall. The colonel walked across the room and stopped beside my table. "I know this young woman," he said softly. My mother immediately interrupted. "Oh, she's just our daughter." Just our daughter. Those 3 words somehow hurt even more than everything before. The colonel shook his head. "No," he replied. "She's the reason dozens of military families received financial help last winter." Silence. Nobody moved. He continued speaking. "When our Veterans Foundation nearly closed, one anonymous donor kept us alive for 8 months." He looked at me. "She never wanted recognition." My brother stared at me as if he had never seen me before. Guests exchanged shocked looks. My father lowered his eyes. My mother forced an uncomfortable smile. There must be some misunderstanding. But the colonel calmly reached into his pocket and unfolded several letters. They are all signed by her. Every sacrifice I had hidden. Every weekend I spent working. Every dollar I quietly donated instead of spending on myself. Was suddenly standing in the middle of the room. And I wished I could disappear. Because I had never done any of it for applause. I simply believed helping people mattered. But that night, the truth refused to stay hidden. My mother finally spoke. "Why didn't you ever tell us?" I almost laughed. When exactly would I have had the chance? The question echoed through the room. For years I had waited for someone to ask about my life. Nobody ever did. The colonel placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. "I've met many successful people," he said. "But very few with this kind of heart." My brother slowly walked toward me. I didn't know. I nodded. Neither did anyone else. For the first time, I wasn't angry. I wasn't trying to prove anything. I was simply tired. Tired of chasing love that always belonged to someone else. The engagement dinner that was supposed to celebrate my brother had quietly become a mirror reflecting every family wound nobody wanted to face. And suddenly, everyone realized who had truly carried kindness without asking for attention. The colonel raised his glass. I would like to make a toast. Everyone stood. To the daughter who expected nothing, yet gave everything. People applauded. Not politely. Genuinely. Several guests walked over to thank me. One elderly woman hugged me with tears in her eyes. My mother remained frozen. For the first time in my life, she wasn't the one controlling the story. She quietly whispered, "I'm sorry." I looked at her for a long moment. There was sadness in her voice, but years of silence cannot disappear in a single sentence. "I forgive you," I replied. "But I need to choose peace now." Those words surprised even me. Because revenge wasn't making her feel guilty. Revenge was finally refusing to live for someone else's approval. I left the engagement dinner before the cake was served. Outside, the night air felt lighter than it had in years. The colonel caught up with me and smiled. "You never needed anyone to prove your worth." He was right. For so long, I believed being ignored meant I wasn't enough. But the truth is, people can overlook your value without changing your value. Months later, my relationship with my family slowly improved. Not because I demanded respect, but because I finally respected myself. And whenever I remember my mother's words, "Don't embarrass us," I quietly smile. Because the only thing that embarrassed anyone that night was the truth they had ignored for years. Sometimes the strongest revenge isn't exposing others. It's walking away knowing your kindness was never weakness, it was your greatest strength.